Welcome to Bookkeeper Support, Common Mistakes in Accounting Software. So we all make mistakes, but it's learning from those mistakes and moving forward. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So as far as I'm concerned, everything is fixable. Okay, over the years, I've encountered many accounting files that need either review, repair, or just completely scratched and started a new file. Now, they're the bad files. When you can't salvage anything, you've just got to cut your ties, cut your line, and go, right, from this date, we're going to start a new file and forget about the past, okay? We're all human. We make mistakes, but you've just got to remember everything is fixable, okay? And so I'm going to go through some of the mistakes that I've found that have been made by clients, by bookkeepers, and by accountants as examples. Where, we're not immune, we are human, and, mistakes do happen, but it's making sure that you don't make that mistake again, or you learn from others so that you don't make the mistake in the first place. So the general errors that I find is entering incorrect details of an invoice, right? A supplier invoice, such as amounts, dates, supplier names, all wrong, or one of them is wrong. Makes it really hard when you're going to audit a file to go and try and find these things or match them to the bank feeds or bank statements, etc. So that's really important in our job. It is all attention to detail, and that's one of the common problems that I see a lot of. Incorrect allocations of transactions. They've been put to the wrong accounts. For example, let's see, an expense was put to an asset account or vice versa. So you need to be aware of where they're supposed to be allocated and make sure that you're accounting for them in the correct place, because it will affect your profit and loss and your balance sheet. Okay, paying the incorrect amount out of the bank compared to the accounting software, something I see a lot of. So in the software, it says that it's $5.05. In the bank, it says it's $5. Right, so there's often an incorrect amount, and then we can't find it in the bank feed. So again, attention to detail is really, really important. Duplicate transactions. Now, this can be caused by bank feeds. Okay, so it's not all human error, but it is that there is a potential for duplicate transactions if you're not paying attention, or if you have started at a certain point and you've kind of lost track there. Okay, combining of accounts. Accounts payable with other accounts, which throws the balance and the reconciliation out. That's one that I've come across recently, and we're out by $170,000. Where we're going to put that, I have no idea. I've left that to the accountant to try and work out, because neither of us can figure out where that came from, because it all balanced before they started combining accounts. So it's really important, if you're going to combine accounts, that you make sure that it's not going to throw everything out of balance, and you keep track of what you've done, and where the money has come from, and what the accounts look like prior to you starting to do that, because you've got to think of the impact that it's going to have on your reconciliations and your balances. Okay. The other thing is capital items and expenses. So, there's certain rules that apply here. So you'll need to look at the ATO and to see what the current rules are. But general rule of thumb, anything over $1,000 can be capitalized and depreciated. So again, check the ATO rules to make sure that you're using the correct rule at the time. This is just an example. Okay, GST on transactions that don't have GST on them, such as bank fees, part of the motor vehicle registration, milk, tea, coffee, rates, water, etc. So ensuring that is broken down correctly, or if you have a part GST, part GST free, then that needs to be separated into two lines and allocated correctly. Actual business expenses substantiated with receipts allocated to owner's drawings. If the client has a receipt and it is a business expense, then it shouldn't be allocated to the owner's drawings. It should be allocated to the correct expense account and then paid for out of the owner's drawings. If you're unsure of how to do that, I can certainly help you with that. Insurance, so make sure that the stamp duty is incorrect generally with the GST. So again, with insurance, you need to cite the insurance papers to ensure that you are picking up the correct amount of GST and you're not putting it on things like stamp duty that generally don't have GST. Instead of paying bills, they're using spend money. So the bills are sitting there unpaid, but they've actually used spend money to pay the bills. So, you know, your accounts are going to be out of balance because you've got all these bills sitting there, but they've actually been paid. So, you know, that's going to confuse the business owner and it's going to put everything out of balance. Not to mention, if you're on accruals, it's going to affect your GST as well. Deleting of core accounts, please don't do that because often they're linked to certain aspects of the accounting software. Thankfully, most of the accounting softwares don't allow you to delete the core accounts, but just be aware if you're going to try and do this, there are ramifications to this. Often I see suspense accounts not reconciled to zero. Suspense accounts, clearing accounts, all those. And accounts payables and accounts receivables is incorrect because the payment made is not recorded correctly. And often I find that they get a remittance from the saying that they've paid their invoice of $150 and what's hit the bank is only $100. So you need to make sure that, you know, you're taking what's actually landed in the bank, not necessarily their word for it. Okay, I see loan errors all the time. So the loan errors that I tend to see are not reconciling the loan accounts to match the balance at the bank. Now, some loan accounts don't give you a statement, but for most of them, you should be able to get a statement to match it to the bank balance. The loans are not in the accounting system, so they're paying the loan off as an expense. That's okay if it's a lease, right? So there are differences between chattel mortgages, leases, and all those kind of things. So make sure that you are putting them into the correct area in the accounting system, okay, and that you're putting them in. Multiple loans in the one account. So say, for instance, you've got 5 cars, they're all through capital finance, and you're putting all the loan amounts into that one account. You can't see what's actually owing for each individual vehicle. Okay, so that makes it really hard to reconcile and find out how long you've got to go on that loan or how much you've got left owing. So some business owners may be able to pay it out early. The loan GST application is incorrect. That's a very common one because it depends on the type of loan to how the GST is claimed, whether it's upfront or whether it's on each individual repayment. Okay, so just make sure you've got the loan documentation there so that you understand what the GST application is to be put in the system. Again, if you have any problems, you know, we can do a session around that and I can walk you through it with your client's documents. Liabilities are not cleared to zero when they're fully paid. So they're sitting there with an amount outstanding of $2,000, but they've actually been fully paid. There is nothing owing. So I often see that as well. Payroll errors. So the PAYG and super accounts are not reconciled to the correct amount outstanding. Okay, that is something that we do need to do. We need to make sure that that is correct. And if it's not correct, maybe contact the accountant and try to work with them to find out why it's not correct. Or book a session with me and we can certainly run through what's going on and see if we can't find it. The other thing I find is missing pay runs. So they've skipped a pay run, like if they're using MyOb, they can skip a pay run and because you put in the dates. That's an account right. Child support deductions are being added to the employer's pay instead of being deducted. That's another problem. So instead of putting a minus, they put a plus and they put it in the wrong account. Some put it in the assets, some put it in the liabilities. So you need to be, need to understand it's like your PAYG. It's a liability and it needs to be deducted from the employee's pay. Okay. Superannuation payments allocated to the expense account, not the liability account. I see that very often from bookkeepers, accountants, and clients alike. employees set up as suppliers. I've seen that on the odd occasion too. So, you know, just make sure that your employees are set up as employees and they're in the payroll system. Superannuation, PAYG, all deductions, all set to the one liability account. They're not separated out. That makes it difficult for reconciliation to understand what is outstanding in your PAYG and what is outstanding in your superannuation, what's outstanding in child support, etc. So separate them out. Bank account errors. Merging of bank accounts. If they're separate bank accounts, then they need separate bank accounts in the accounting software. You can't merge them together to make them one because they'll never balance, ever. And then it's an absolute mess to try and pull them apart. If I see a merging of bank accounts, I tend to start from scratch. It's just much, much easier that way. When you're entering an amount to make the bank balance. So if you can't find $76.01, do not put in a transaction for $76.02 to make the bank balance. Go find it. Go hunting for it. It's got to be there somewhere. You just have to put in the time and find it. Not reconciling the software to the actual bank account balance. That's really important in what we do. It must reconcile in the software, must match what the actual bank account balance is. Okay. Accounts not set up. For example, the client never told you about them. I have come across people who have credit cards and I say, okay, well, I've got all these receipts, but where are they coming from? Because the accounts that I have don't have these expenses in them. And then they say, oh yeah, that's my business credit card. It's not in the system. Can I have all the details for that, please? So it does happen. Sometimes your client forgets to tell you things. So you need to, you know, if there's something like that that doesn't seem right, talk to them about it. Using the bank account like an electronic clearing account. So that means that the individual amounts go into the bank and then out of the bank account. Then a second bulk transaction is paid out of the bank account as one payment to multiple suppliers, also in the bank account. So it's like you've got an in and out and an out. It's messy, so make sure that when you're setting up your accounts that you have an electronic clearing account set up, an undeposited funds account set up, and your bank accounts, and make sure they're linked correctly, okay? Because otherwise it's a complete mess trying to work out what they've done. Okay, so I can't do every single one. I can't show you exactly what's going on in each software. I wish I could. But unfortunately, it's too hard to do that in a session. So if you're struggling with any of these issues and you want to book a session with me, please do. Please email me and I will book a session, the coaching session with you, and we can go through it together and find out what the problems are, find resolutions for them, and help me move forward if you have any problems or if you want to prevent these things from happening to your files. We can also go through that. All right, have a wonderful day, and if you need me, please do reach out.